You're live here at Trifecta Sports Talk. This is different for us. Evan, how are you?
I'm doing just dandy. How about you, Tanner?
Doing okay. Usually we're doing this at a ballpark or some type of outdoor visual, but obviously amidst this COVID-19 sort of fear, we're not obviously at McCoy Stadium where we typically do 90% of these. So it's a little bit
Uh,
different. New platform. We're live on Facebook and on YouTube. So make sure to share, like, subscribe, and we're also live on the website as well. We can see comments here. So if you do leave a comment with a question, we can answer them um, right off this live stream. And also, we pull out a question as well, a poll really asking whether or not Tom Brady is going to win another Super Bowl. It's a yes or no. If you haven't heard, Tom Brady is going to be joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for next season. But I wanted to start this thing off um, giving 5 helpful tips of what to do to help stop coronavirus or COVID-19. I thought that was something that we should start off with. Number 1, wash your hands often, 20 seconds. Number 2, cough into your elbow. Number 3, your face. Do not touch your face. And then stand 6 feet apart from somebody. And if you're sick, you stay home. And if you go to trifectanetworksports.com, which the ticker on the bottom has the URL, it has helpful links as well right on the homepage for various resources. And you know what, Evan? Isolation is not very healthy for your mind. So it's always helpful to pick up the phone or text, just get your mind off of things. And hopefully we can do that here today. But what was your thoughts yesterday morning when Tom Brady posted on Instagram that he's not returning to the New England Patriots?
it was kind of shocking just because over the last 20 years, you've seen Tom Brady as being, if not the most important athlete in Boston sports history, it's most important 1A, along with, I would probably say, David Ortiz. So seeing him leave was kind of shocking in that way. But my second thought that I had was I'm like thinking, dude, you're 42. You've won 6 Super Bowls. You have nothing else to prove. Now, granted, I know it's being reported that he's going to be making $30 million a year, which is way more than he's ever made with New England. So, I mean, it makes sense that he's doing that because for that much money, why wouldn't you do that? But at the end of the day, it just felt like, come on, man, like you got nothing else to prove. Go enjoy time with your family.
And I guess the question that I have is the rumor is New England offered him $25 million a year, right? So we're talking the difference of $5 million to go to a team that last year went 7-9, hasn't made the playoffs since 2007, hasn't won a playoff game since 2002. The head coach Bruce Arians, which I know people think he's probably a top 10, 15 coach in the NFL. This is a guy that has 3 postseason appearances in 6 years as an NFL head coach and just 1 win. So if you're Brady, is it just trying to prove one more time that you are the best quarterback of all time? Is that what this is for him?
I mean, I guess, it does definitely make sense. They do have some weapons down there. I mean, they got Chris Godwin, they got Mike Evans, you got OJ Howard at the tight end, and you got a pretty good running back. Um, he definitely has the weapons. Like right here in New England, he has James White, his buddy Julian Edelman, who is basically he's getting old. Um, and you're probably losing Philip Dorsett. Not like it was like a big loss after he kind of seemed to lose, basically trusted him towards the end of last year. Then you also got Mohamed Sanu, which who was just hurt with the Patriots. But you're losing a lot of. You don't really have many options on offense. So it's like,
But I
do
would
you
say
restart?
if your goal, Tom Brady at this point, is it $5 million? Obviously, that's a lot of money to us, but for him, that's minuscule, right? It's not all about the money. You always figured with this guy, with Tom Brady, it's all about winning Super Bowls, right? And you're leaving a 12-4 New England Patriots team that, yes, has gotten older. They've lost some bodies on the defense. And on top of that, you're right. On offense, the Patriots, they have a lot of question marks. But I'd also say I like a guy like N'Keal Harry. I like what he can offer the Patriots. And I think they can do some stuff to get better for next season. So is Tampa Bay a 7-9 team in a better position to win next year to go on a Super Bowl run, or was Tom Brady returning to the Patriots and the Patriots retooling a better route for him to win a Super Bowl?
That 7-9 record with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers seems a little bit skewed. After all, Jameis Winston wasn't the greatest quarterback last year. He never really
Sure.
made that. He never really made that jump to that like top like over number one overall pick level that people thought he was going to. I mean, after all, he had 30 interceptions last year. His last throw was a pick six in overtime in Week 17. Like, come on, I think it's a little bit better than what they had beforehand. And I think next year, especially if, I mean, for fantasy, I would go after that. I can't think of the running back's name. Rashad Jones?
They have two running backs. They actually had a split backfield last year, Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones. Both of them actually scored 6 touchdowns apiece. Ronald Jones was more of their primary back, if you want to call it that, but Bruce Arians didn't commit to a starting running back last year.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, you if you're in fantasy, I would definitely go after one of those two because they're gonna help them out a lot. But I mean, overall, I think even at 40, which will be 43, I think Tom Brady is a better quarterback than Jameis Winston is for next season.
Oh, I don't argue that.
I don't know. Granted, I don't know if they're gonna go on a Super Bowl run, but if they will, I'm thinking going to be 10-6, 11-5 next year.
Right, but that's the point, is how many years does Tom Brady have left, right? And if it's literally $5 million is what he picked over another chance to win, it kind of doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't track what he does historically.
The only thing I can think of is with going back to the New England offense, it doesn't. There's so many question marks on the New England offense. He was thinking, you know what? I go here. I got 2 top tier wide receivers. I got a pretty good tight end that I can throw to. Like, I got some toys to play with here. New England, I got Jules, who face it, like, he did not look good at the end of last year. Granted, he was hurt. And then you got N'Keal Harry, who showed some promise at the end of the year, but, like, he has a lot of work to do to catch up to speed.
The Tampa Bay defense last year was also a back half of the league defense. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on Tom Brady to win there. I mean, if he came back to the Patriots, if they were losing, if they got knocked out of the playoffs, Brady probably wouldn't have been blamed for it. You know, his performance might have slipped, but the fan base would have understood. He's been here. He's won before. He's 43 years old. The offense probably wouldn't have been around him. But he's going to Tampa Bay, where if you're a Buccaneers fan, you're looking at this and saying, well, you got to come here and win a Super Bowl. You're paying him $30 million a season for the next 2 years. He's 43 years old. You have this top-tier offense, Tom. We're going to potentially bring in Antonio Brown. You have to win. And I just don't know if he can do it. But if you look at the NFC South, it's not a very strong division as a whole, right? I mean, New Orleans Saints won the division last year with a 13-3 record. Drew Brees is getting a year older. You figure they're probably a favorite to win the division again, even with Brady in there. The Atlanta Falcons went 7-9. That's not a very good football team. The Carolina Panthers went 5-11. They're trading away Cam Newton. That's a team that, you know, they could take a step forward, sure. But I look at the division in the NFC South, and I actually think it's a weaker division than AFC East for next year.
Right, and I mean, if you look at the AFC East next year, Buffalo got better. They just brought in Stephon Diggs. To begin with, like, you have that another top tier receiver, and I mean, Josh Allen, you got to assume he's going to get a little bit better. He was still decent last year, and they got a pretty good defense.
Yes, yeah, I think, yeah,
and then. Sam Darnold, I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. Like, I still think the Jets are gonna finish last in the division, and then the Miami Dolphins. Granted, they're not good, but
they're like the minor league Patriots, right? The Miami Dolphins, essentially, are. Yeah.
So are the Detroit Lions, but that makes total sense. But Brian Flores has brought in a lot of guys into Miami that bought in. I mean, at the end of the season, they had like a respectable record compared to what people were thinking they were going to do.
Yeah, it looked disastrous at the start. And the problem was with Flores, a lot of the guys didn't buy into his coaching habits. They were New England coaching habits, right? He was tough on players. They didn't buy in on it. And then the guys that remained, They bought in on his system, and yeah, Flores. I actually think he'll have a better coaching record in 5 years than Matt Patricia will in Detroit.
I agree.
Some other things with Brady, I do question how he's going to fit in that system. I understand he's going to go in there and they're telling him you can run the offense. This is your system. But the fact is, in New England, he was running Josh McDaniels' offense. So I don't know if they have the capability from a coaching staff perspective, but there's a lot of things that Josh did to make Tom successful that Tom is not going to have in Tampa Bay. So you can say, Tom, you can build the offense, but guess what? Yeah, Brady probably had a helping hand in New England. But at the end of the day, Josh McDaniels was the play caller. He was the guy who actually designed the plays for Brady.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And honestly, I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, Josh McDaniels was a big part of that offense and how everything was run, just like you said. But yeah, like if you're Tampa Bay, say he plays another 2 years, if you're Bruce Arians, you need to completely redo your entire offense for Tom Brady, and that's what's going to end up happening. And then after that, you're screwed. So you're in a 2-year window if you're Tampa Bay, you're in a 2-year window where you have a chance to win. Does it happen? Who knows? We'll see. But it's not like a great long-term sustainable success that they're set up for.
Well, look, it worked in Denver, right? They brought in Peyton Manning, who ended up breaking the touchdown record with Denver. They won a Super Bowl. Gary Kubiak was the head coach there, and they did tailor their offense around an aging quarterback. It worked for a year, maybe two, and then it fell apart. So, look, if Tampa Bay comes away with a Super Bowl championship this year, then you look at that and you say, well, say we pay him $60 million for 2 years. Well, it was worth it because we won a championship, right? But the coach doesn't have a track record of winning, so that is a concern for me. If he went to a team where, like, say, Gary Kubiak was the offensive coordinator, a guy who has won, or anyone who's had any success of winning in the NFL. But the fact is, Bruce Arians, you might think he's a smart coach, a good coach, but the fact is, end of the day, Tom Brady should be the head coach of that team. If you really think about it, this guy has never won anything. So there's a lot of uncertainty with this Tampa Bay team. And yeah, the offense will be talented, but we've never seen this coaching staff in a Super Bowl scenario, in a playoff scenario. And to be frank, none of the players have ever been in that situation outside of Brady. So is Tom Brady that good where he can take this 7-9 football team and make them a contender? I have my doubts.
I'm going to go back to the 2010 season when the Patriots lost that divisional game against the Jets at Gillette Stadium. That was a very inexperienced team in the playoffs, and it showed in that game. What you're saying definitely makes sense. Like, Tom Brady's not what he was 10 years ago?
Is he what he was last year?
You're right. And is he able to still play at that level where he's able to overcome the experience on the team and basically be able to help them win? You're absolutely right. Does that help them in the long run? I mean, when Brady was in his prime in a MVP
you're 3 years removed from that, though. At this point, you've had 3 consecutive seasons of QBR, passing rating decline, completion percentage decline. That's 3 straight years of down years for Tom Brady.
You're right, and I'm basically pointing out that even when he was an MVP quarterback, the inexperience of the football team wasn't able to overcome the Jets.
And the reality is, last year, Tom Brady was not a very good quarterback. The offense wasn't great, but there was some talent. They actually invested in that offense quite a bit. They brought in Antonio Brown. They used the first-round pick on N'Keal Harry. They traded for Mohamed Sanu. So there was a serious investment into that offense.
It just none of it worked.
Just didn't click, and part of that's Brady, right? Part of it is his inability at this stage in his career to actually develop chemistry with those players. And the fact is, last year, the Patriots defense carried Tom Brady. He's joining a Tampa Bay defensive team, like a team that was not very good defensively. So that defense is not going to carry him this year. He has his work cut out from him. Look, best of luck. I think for the Patriots, this was actually a best case scenario. But I don't know who the quarterback will be next year. Is it Jarrett Stidham? There's so much speculation where I think we should almost not talk about it until something actually happens. I hope to God is not Cam Newton, Andy Dalton, or anything like that. I would rather have Jarrett Stidham as the starting quarterback next year.
We know what, like, you're right. And I mean, we know what Andy Dalton is. He's a quarterback that, granted, the Cincinnati's just been an absolute train wreck for the last, I don't know, like 40 years.
Yeah, sure, there's upside with him. But.
Right. I mean, there is upside with him, but we know what he is. Like, he's going to be a decent quarterback. Like, he'll make plays. Cam Newton, he's a loser.
But to be fair, he's a former league MVP who has been in a Super Bowl. Granted, he pooped his pants in said Super Bowl.
True.
Former league MVP. So he's a little bit higher tier to me than Andy Dalton.
True. But at that point, if you're Belichick, why don't you try to go back and get, I don't know, Jacoby Brissett? Like, I'd rather have him than Cam Newton. I mean, after all, the Colts, they just signed Phillip Rivers. Like, they got their quarterback for next year. So if you're them, like, if you're the Patriots, go out there. I'd rather Brissett than Cam Newton. Saying all that, I'd rather roll the dice with Jarrett Stidham, see what he is, or see what happens in the draft.
Yeah, I would say they're probably not going to draft a quarterback. I mean, they could, right? You never know with Bill Belichick, but I would say they roll the dice with a training camp competition type of situation where you have Stidham and you bring in a veteran NFL quarterback. So maybe it is Andy Dalton as that other guy, but I think ultimately they're going to play it out, and whoever performs well in preseason, they're going to be the guy that comes out of camp. I think that's what we're looking at. And it'll be the first time, in 20 years that's been the case. And that's kind of incredible, right?
Even when 20 years ago, you had a franchise quarterback set up in Drew Bledsoe. Just happened to get hurt, and the rest is history.
100%. I do think that if Bledsoe was healthy, Brady never existed. I do think the Patriots would have broken through at some point because I think Belichick was just that good, and Bledsoe was a pretty decent quarterback too if he was healthy.
Right. I mean,
that's revisionist history, though. So,
right. Six Super Bowls later, I'm not gonna. I don't want to think of what possibly could have happened.
Yeah, 8 Super Bowl appearances.
That's just crazy.
There could have been more. I
9.
mean, there were some years.
By the way, it's 9.
9. Yeah, but there could have been more. There could have been more. I mean, that's the thing. You look at it, and you're like, how many did they leave on the table? Just years where they should have made it, but they didn't. There's a lot of tough games in Denver. So, yeah. We're going to move on here. No more Patriots. No more Brady talk. I know there's a lot of stuff going on with free agency, but the Patriots, for the most part, have sort of been inactive. They've done some minor stuff, but moving on to talk baseball. When will the baseball season start? Will it actually occur? I don't know, right? The problem with baseball, Evan, is they have this month plus of spring training where they're playing games every day, where pitchers are pitching every 5th day. And now we're at a situation now where guys are not having the ability to do that in a game setting. And even if you flip the switch right now and you said all teams can get back to normal, I mean, we're still looking. If you did it today, you need a month to turn it around. That's the problem with baseball is no matter when this stops, they're going to have a month and a half of, to some type of spring training, right? To get back up and running. And that's, I think, the scary part.
Granted, when it comes to like the spring training type of like games, the pitchers are always behind the hitters. So you really only need about 2 weeks. Now, what you could do if you're Major League Baseball is add an extra couple of roster spots to carry an extra couple of pitchers to try to basically build up that arm strength earlier in the season. It's going to take a lot of work, but you're going to have your, say Eduardo Rodriguez on opening day. He's not going to go 100 pitches. He's probably going to go 60 to 70.
No. Honestly, they're shutting it down. I mean, that's the problem.
Trust me, I know. But if you're still going to have some sort of spring training, but you don't have to do the month and a half. You could do 2 to 3 weeks. So you're still able to get a couple of starts under your belt. So if you're Eduardo Rodriguez, maybe you can only get 60 to 70 pitches in your first start and then build your way up there during the regular season. Saying that, I think best case scenario right now, you're looking at a Memorial Day opening day, which if that the way that works out, you're starting spring training again probably on Mother's Day, and I think that's even.
That's not going to happen.
I'm optimistic. I hate to say that I agree, but
look, I think if baseball gets 100 games in this season, I think that's a miracle.
Oh God, yeah.
I think it's personally, I think this is better for the sport in a weird way. Not from, yes, there's a monetary loss here that's insurmountable, but that's just the reality of it. 162 game season that starts in late March, right?
Right.
And then it ends in October, November. That is too long, and that is a problem for the sport. What this allows them to do is do a drastic change to their schedule and makeup and the fans will have to accept it because that's the reality of the situation we're in.
True.
So they could do a massive shakeup, and let's just see how it works. What does a 100-game schedule look like? 80-game schedule. What does that look like for Major League Baseball? And if it works very well for them, maybe that's something you test out in the following year. This sport needs a drastic change, and this gives them the opportunity to do it and no one to give them extreme backlash over it.
True, and you're absolutely right. And what even personally, I'm already thinking, my God, like I've been so bored the last couple of days. Like there's no sports on. I've been I've been talking about the coronavirus and trying to get connected through my other job, trying to at work. I've just been bored not watching sports, and I'm already thinking I can't wait for opening day, and I finally can watch something. Like I'm already planning to take the day off, like opening day at McCoy. Like I can't wait for all that.
When will that's the problem is when will that happen? And I guess the thing that we're not thinking about is the cascading effect. So whatever Major League Baseball decides to do, I think you're right. They're going to expand the rosters, especially on the pitching side. So whenever Major League Baseball starts, when is the cascading effect for the minor league system and how that occurs? I guess is the question. They're going to have a minor league. There'll be a season, right, for baseball, but it's going to be ultra tight, ultra condensed, and that's going to be the case across multiple sports. I think the NHL, NBA, the NHL season, I think, is over. The NBA, I think the NBA can play whenever they want, realistically. And I know Mark Cuban and other people have said, hey, we actually want to play more in the summer months anyway. So this is potentially what we're going to do long term.
Right.
The NHL has the problem with the temperature of the ice. MLS will have a problem. They're not going to get the 34-game season. They're probably going to be more condensed. They'll probably play until December too. So there's going to be a lot of different balls in the air. But yeah, the Paw Sox, I honestly have no idea what's going to happen. But the other side of this is, well, what if the Polar Park doesn't open on time either? So you might get maybe another season of Pawtucket potentially. I don't know, but that's potentially the case. I mean, you look in Boston, they've ceased construction site operations, so that could happen in Worcester too.
Oh, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And right now, you're thinking, all right, even in minor league baseball, there isn't as many off days as there is in Major League Baseball. You're only having maybe 2 or 3 off days a month, where in Major League Baseball you have like 1 a week. So you're already trying to fit in 140 games into a pretty consistent schedule. So what are you going to do now? Like, granted, you could get rid of the All-Star game, which I think is going to have to end up happening in Major League Baseball. And you just don't know what you're going to be able to do. Because, granted, this game, because they could be trying to plan it out now, where this is going to start, say, June 1st, but it might not be starting till July, August.
Yeah.
At that point, I'd even bother playing?
You do. I mean, see, there's they do, right? At that point, they would. I would imagine. So say the CDC says, all right, you can start doing events in July or whatever, but even in June. So I do think there's going to be a scenario where the NBA is playing in empty arenas. That's how the league will get back. And I think MLB, I know it's going to be tough, but you might be seeing Fenway Park with no fans for a while too. So I think even when leagues start to get back up, you're going to see potentially no fans. I think baseball, is it better off for them to start in June or July with no fans potentially for the rest of the year, or to not have a season? And I would say, based on the TV revenue, it's better just to play with no fans. But
Oh,
on
you
the flip
absolutely
side, sorry, but on the flip side, there's some leagues like Major League Soccer where their TV revenue is such a small portion of their overall revenue stream, where for them not having fans is not something they can financially do. But for baseball, they could do it.
right. And in contrast with that, if you're like a baseball fan, now I'm one of those weird millennials that actually it really enjoys baseball. Um, I'm gonna watch a lot of baseball this year just because I'm not gonna be able to watch it for for the next couple of months. So you're more likely to get a lot of people like me. And granted, I know that demographic is a lot older, but they're gonna make sure make it more appointment viewing TV than it normally already is.
Correct. There's going to be potentially a scenario where they come back and they do record ratings. And this is an
I think I'll see that
opportunity.
in all sports.
Yeah, but I think Major League Baseball has an opportunity. Let's say the NHL says, we're done. We're done for the season. Say the NBA might even say that, but I doubt it. But let's just say one league does it. The fans for that league are going to be looking for the first live sporting event they can get their hands on.
Right.
So I think the second there's an all clear, and I do think the NBA is going to do it first because they just do a better job at stuff.
I
But
agree.
the first league that gets back up and running is going to have incredible audience and an opportunity to grow the sport. Baseball, I think, is going to be the last sport to get back up because they just don't handle things properly.
Not only that, but they just going back to our previous conversation. You actually have to do practice games where I say in the NBA, you can do one or two.
But you don't have to do practice games, right? You could, in theory, just say, if the players push back, be like, all right, well, we're just not going to have the season and we're going to invoke some bylaw that we don't have to pay you or something like that. Like, if the MLB came out and said, there's no spring training, game one is game one of the regular season, fine, we'll do 80 players on the roster, whatever we have to do to make this work. That might be a scenario as well. Like, we talk about spring training and the necessary, all right, you get a week or two of stretching, but, if you're a pitcher, suck it up, go out there, we'll make it so statistics matter less this year or whatever you want to do.
True, and I mean, even if you're doing that in say Major League Baseball, it does get the game back on the field at the Major League level earlier rather than later. So say instead, the other day when they CDC said that you're gonna wait 8 weeks, that brings it to Mother's Day. So say opening day is the day after.
That's also a recommendation. There's different things too. Like, I would also say that, Governor Baker or Marty Walsh or say the state of Rhode Island or wherever your team plays, they might have a local ban that extends past that, and that actually surmounts anything the CDC puts out. Like, the local one's the actual one that matters.
You're absolutely right, but I'm just using it as like an example.
Yeah, sure.
So say across the country, June 1st, you're able to do it, where you're able to actually go across and do stuff. But as of say the day, say May 11th, if you're able to have games and say have 40 to 45 guys on the roster, it'll give you give a lot of those younger players a chance to be able to actually A, get paid, and B, you're able to actually get games on TV. And that's the biggest thing for Major League Baseball. No matter what, because if it's a regular season game at Fenway Park, people are going to watch it. Even if it's watching Jared Duran or Josh Ockamy out there trying to hit balls.
Yeah, no matter what it is, if they field a AAA baseball team or a single A baseball team, people will watch it.
Right. Even especially if it's at Fenway Park.
It actually doesn't even matter where the venue is. They could play these games in McCoy. Like, they could play it in New Hampshire, as long as they find a ballpark to play it in. So say there's a situation, Evan, where, okay, we're past the deadline, but Massachusetts is still holding. All right, we'll play out of Portland. Like, okay, that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do, right? At that point. So I think this is the time to be innovative if you're a league and do things that have never been done before, because we've never seen a situation like this. So So we'll see what happens with that regard. There is some things I want to talk about in continuation to baseball. I don't know if you saw my post on TrifectaNetworkSports.com about MLB The Show and the player ratings.
I
No?
missed that.
He's not reading the site, folks.
It's
Okay,
been a crazy couple of days.
MLB The Show came out yesterday. I actually got it this past weekend and played it quite a bit. They have the Paw Sox logo in there, which is nice. Although the stadiums are not, it's not McCoy Stadium. I can attest to that. They did not put minor league stadiums in there, but they did give player ratings. The system's not perfect in terms of how they map players. Like Bobby Pointer was a free agent in the system. He's not a free agent, folks. And Teddy Stankiewicz was listed on their roster. Teddy is actually signed to the Mexican League, so there are some problems. But the highest rated Paw Sox player was Chad De La Guerra, rated 75 overall. To put that in perspective, Rafael Devers is rated 83 overall. Chad De La Guerra, 75. I like Chad De La Guerra. I thought he was great last year, but 75? My God.
Chad De La Guerra, I would argue, is
He's a good player.
He's probably the best player on the Pawtucket Red Sox. However, if Rafael Devers is an 83, Chad De La Guerra is not a 75.
Yeah, and I didn't see Rusney on the list. They didn't have all the players. I don't know how that worked, but yeah, Chad De La Guerra, 75. The number one was Chris Sale, JD Martinez, number 2 in the Red Sox, Bogarts 3, Vasquez 4, Rafael Devers 5. I don't think Christian Vasquez is a better player than Rafael Devers.
No.
I'm sorry. But Trevor Hildenberger was 72. He's the highest rated Paw Sox pitcher. Bobby Dahlback, 69. Daniel McGrath, 69. Reno Espinel, 68. CJ Chatham, 66. Who's the lowest rated Paw Sox player? Matthew Gorst, 52 overall. That makes sense. Although I do say Matthew Kent, 55 overall, should probably be the least. Not trying to do some shade, but he's not very good. Kyle Hart at 56 overall, I took offense with. 56
I agree.
overall. That's a bit harsh. I think he's a top. In my opinion, he's the number 1 starter for the Paw Sox.
Chances are he was probably going to pitch opening night for the Paw Sox this year.
Still will. There's hope, folks, that there will be an opening day at McCoy. But
I mean, face it, 3 weeks from tomorrow. Well, it's supposed to be 3 weeks. Yeah. It was supposed to be 3 weeks from tomorrow. Syracuse Mets. Tim Tebow and the Syracuse Mets are supposed to be at McCoy Stadium.
Yep, it's not going to happen. Speaking of McCoy Stadium, you probably didn't read it because Evan doesn't read anything on the site, but I'm starting a series where there's nothing going on in sports, right? This is the last season at McCoy Stadium for the Pawtucket Red Sox. So I started this historic type thing where I just look at, there's a lot of history of baseball in Rhode Island and at McCoy, right? The stadium was built in 1942, has been holding Red Sox baseball since 1970, I think, 71 Red Sox baseball. 1966 was the first Double-A team. And then the Paw Sox, the Indians, were the team, and then 1973 it became the Paw Sox. A lot of history at McCoy. The stadium was run down for a long time, and then in the 90s they renovated it under Ben Monder, and our last video was sitting at the footsteps of Ben Monder where I cut myself off, and all you could see was Evan and Ben Monder. But
yeah, and if Evan has a conversation with I can't think of his real first name. I always thought it was Benjamin too, and it's not.
It's not. I can't think of it either. Gregory or something. There's some. It's not Ben. It's not Ben. We'll figure it out at some point. Yeah. I mean,
it's not.
But there's a lot of history at the venue. They had the 33-inning baseball game that ended at. They stopped it at 4:09 in the morning, and then picked it up a couple months later.
It lasted 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, you had a guy like Wade Boggs playing that game. Marty Barrett, longtime catcher, played in that game. So there's a lot of history
in that game.
Yeah, that's right. You had 2 perfect games in McCoy. Bronson Arroyo was the last one, August 10th, 2003, and then Arroyo ended up going up to the major league team after that and pitched out of the bullpen pretty effectively, and ended up becoming a big league player after that. 18.8 million fans in 43 years, 11.7 million in the past 21 since they did the renovation. So it's a historic venue. Um, the sad reality, Evan, it's probably going to get torn down in the next 5 years.
Yeah, and unless the Paw Sox have to play there next year, and I doubt the state's going to find something to do with the land, so chances are it's still going to be there. But after maybe early next year, you're not going to be seeing baseball there anymore.
Yeah, and that's a sad thing. And look, I understand the money that goes into it, and just to get it up to code, it's quite a bit of money. And they were talking about bringing an independent league there, and the owner of that team had even said, like, if I go in there, I have to slash. They went from they went up to 10,000 seats in 1999, and if that team moved in there, they'd have to cut out like half the seats because they'd only get like 5,000 fans a game. But I think there's a market for baseball in Rhode Island. I mean, you've seen the decline in attendance for the Paw Sox. If you want specifics, TrifectaNetworkSports.com. I have a full historic view of attendance in McCoy and across the state of Rhode Island. But you did see the Newport Gulfs see like a 20% bump in attendance last year. I think that was people shifting from the Paw Sox to them. So I think, look, there's a hunger for professional sports in Rhode Island, and it is going to be a shame when there isn't baseball there.
Yeah, I mean, right now, after the Labor Day this year, essentially the only professional team in the state of Rhode Island is going to be the Providence Bruins. And you get more fans at Providence College Friars basketball games than you do Providence Bruins games.
Yeah, fortunately, there is some decent college teams as well in the market. And in theory, you're going to have a professional soccer team in a new venue in a couple of years as well. We'll see if this current scenario delays that. At this point, I wouldn't expect it to delay that, but you never know.
Right.
There's going to be a lot more historic pieces, though, on the Paw Sox and on McCoy Stadium in the history of sports in Rhode Island on TrifectaNetworkSports.com. As I try to fill the content void, because let's face it, there isn't anything live, really. You have the NFL free agency. You have updates on when leagues might be coming back, but there's nothing else. So the next post will go up tomorrow morning. I'm starting an all-time roster. So this is players that not necessarily played for the Paw Sox the longest, but based on a season threshold, who are the best players ever to play for the Paw Sox. So tomorrow morning, starting pitchers, you'll have 6 starters that I picked, and then the honorable mentions as well. There's some really great seasons in there. Guys like John Lester had a great season, Clay Buchholz, Hector Velasquez, Anthony Renato, Bronson Arroyo, Oil Can Boyd. And there's some other guys that you've probably never have heard of. But you can look back and you just look at their statistics and what they were able to do for the Paw Sox. Quite incredible. Have you ever heard of Dick Pole, Evan? This was a guy, 1973. It was the debut season of the Paw Sox. They won the Governor's Cup that year. He led the IL in his ERA. He had a 2.03 ERA, 12-9 record, 182 innings pitched, 23 starts.
What year was this?
1973. They won the Governor's Cup. So Dick Pole, I love baseball, but this is a guy who had a 5.05 ERA in the major leagues. This is a guy you probably wouldn't have heard of, but he had 16 complete games, averaged 8 innings a start. And now you can say pitchers back then pitched longer, right? His 16 complete games led the IL. That guy was a workhorse. It's incredible, right?
You don't see that anymore.
No, but you go back and you just you see the season some of these guys had. Jeff Suppan was another guy that, maybe they lost him to the Arizona Diamondbacks in the expansion draft, and what was it? Some early 2000s, right? When the Arizona Diamondbacks
I think it was 99.
97. Sorry, 97. But that was a guy that had 142 strikeout year with the Paw Sox in 96. And he was a really good starter for them. Just you go back and look at the history, and it is incredible, though. 50 years in a row, and some of the players that have come through the doors at McCoy. And I'll talk about relief pitchers, catchers, first baseman. The whole shebang will come up in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I'm just going back to the complete game thing. Like, you don't see that at the minor leagues anymore. Like, I'm trying to think, since we've started covering the Pod Sox, I can only think of one complete game, and that was a complete game by Sean Haviland
Yes.
in 2017. I think that
Mhm.
was the last one. There might have
It
been
was.
one on the road, but I think from the ones that
Nah.
we've covered.
Okay, hold on. I
I'm
got my
trying to
handy
think.
dandy. I can look it up. I got this handy dandy media guide here. The last no hitter is that, but we're looking for. I wish this thing was digital, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, the last complete game in a 9-inning game was Sean Haviland. That was in 2017, but they had a 7-inning game shutout from Mike Schwarn in 2018. It was in the doubleheader.
Gotcha.
So you know, 7-inning complete games. I mean, it definitely helps out the team.
The pitching for those.
Yeah. No, it
pitching
helps.
those days, but
Yes, but you know, it's not a real complete game.
right. But yeah, like because that was from you got that out of the 2019 media guide, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, because I don't think there was any last year.
Yep. Yeah. This is the old media guide. Unfortunately, we were gonna
We haven't gotten the new one yet.
we were gonna get it. I might reach out to see if we can get an updated one, because there was this, you know, this cool stat where like 70% of Paw Sox players have played in the major leagues at some point. Which is an incredible stat, right? You know, you go to McCoy and you think, oh, some of these guys are here forever, but then you look at, you know, the statistics in over a period of, you know, 50 years. You're talking about 70% of the players appearing in a major league game, whether it be a game like Mike Miller played in one game or whatever it was.
I was actually going to say Mike Miller. I think he played in one game in like one at bat. But yeah, like even like AAA guy like that, like things happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Mike Miller's up to now. He hasn't signed a contract with any organization. I bet he's retired, but you haven't seen anything on it though.
I mean, if he wanted to
nice
play,
guy.
if you're a team, I would just give him a contract because he's a good guy for the younger players to look up to. And you're right, yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, nice guy. Did a lot for the community as well. He was like one of the go-to guys for helping out the community in Pawtucket. Yeah, good to see. So we'll be back next week. I don't know what time, what day. We're pretty bad at that. I would say it's whenever there's stuff going on. We're saying once a week. So even through this, it'll be once a week. I'm sure there'll be stuff to talk about. I would, tell Evan, keep a little tab on the site, just see what's going up, and so you can be in the conversation, and maybe you can like disagree and be like, no, I don't think Bronson Arroyo should be on that list. And this is why.
Hey, you want to know what? I have a little. My heart out to Bronson Arroyo. He was the starting pitcher for my first Red Sox game.
I mean, there's some guys that just went out of McCoy. I mean, John Lester had one really good year with the Paw Sox, and then obviously he went on to have this incredible career. Probably if I did a lot of research on this, and it's not in my post tomorrow, but I would say John Lester is the most successful starting pitcher to go through McCoy and then go to the big leagues. Like it's actually not even close. Like you had like Jeff Suppan, who's successful. Bronson Arroyo was successful. Clemens didn't pitch enough to be considered a Paw Sox.
Like there for like a month, right?
Yeah, and I know last year they inducted him into their Hall of Fame, which was just a PR stunt, obviously. But
oh god, yeah.
I would like to see a guy like John Lester, when he retires, get inducted into the Hall of Fame for the Paw Sox. There's other guys that should have been in before Clemens. Like, if we're being real. But yeah, like I think John Lester is the most successful starter who played at least a full season for the Paw Sox and then went on to the majors. 3-time World Series champion. I mean, his postseason stats, oh my God. I mean, there's not a bigger game pitcher. I know you look at like Kurt Schilling and you look at Josh Beckett, and those guys were big game pitchers. But John Lester, this guy's a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
It's a shame that it was over a little bit of money, but
yeah, the only other guy that I could possibly think of would be Clay Buchholz. Now, granted, he had some bad years, but when he wasn't, in his own head, like he was arguably the best pitcher in the game.
Yeah,
like in 2013, before he got basically did a somersault trying to cover first base and hurt his shoulder. He, I think he was 13-1 with like a 1.3 ERA. Like he was
up. He actually received votes for the Cy Young that year, and if he had pitched healthy the entire year, he would have won the Cy Young.
okay, easily. Easily. It just once you get in October, like it was John Lester that did it for you.
Yeah, Buchholz and Lester both made the list as honorable mentions, but I picked 6 starters and then a bunch of other guys who I thought were just shy of making it. But you go back and you forget how good like Anthony Renato was a couple years ago, or Hector Velasquez. I mean, those guys some really really good years in Pawtucket, and you are facing talented hitters down there.
Yeah.
A lot of them could be in the big leagues. I think that. I mean, you have a lot of guys now who hit 250 or 270 in the big leagues, and now they're in AAA the following year. And that's a major league hitter. I'm sorry, if you hit 250, 260, and then you go down into AAA, you're a major league hitter.
Yep.
But that's the reality of it.
Yeah, I mean, the first year we covered the Paul Sox of doing the stories the night Hector Velasquez pitch, it was Velasquez 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 6 Ks, no walks, 90 pitches, 65 for strikes. It was honestly almost comical how consistent he was.
Yep, and Anthony Renato is the same thing too. I was looking back at his game logs. I mean, the guy won 9 straight games.
That's
9
ridiculous.
straight decisions. It was tied for longest, I believe, in franchise history. So this guy went out on the mound 9 straight times and won. That's hard to do. Obviously, he never panned out, which is a shame, but that's a lot of the guys you'll see on my list. Half of them ended up throwing 2,000 plus innings in the big leagues, and the other half, ended up not panning out. And that's the reality of baseball. But
is Renato in Korea now?
I have no idea. I know he fell out of professional, American organized baseball 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think he went to Korea after that.
Probably. Is William Cuevas still over there?
Cuevas and Justin Haley.
Oh god, those guys actually had decent years a couple years ago, but not good enough to. Cuevas actually pitched for Boston in the year prior to him going to Korea.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Haley was up there too, but they used Cuevas a lot, and it makes sense that they ended up bringing him in. Like there were a lot of scouts from the Korean League at McCoy that year.
Yeah. Yep. So that's it. Make sure to check out the latest news at TrifectaNetworkSports.com. Follow us on Facebook. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. I think that's how you're supposed to do it.
Yes.
And make sure everyone stay safe. And I think the best thing to do sometimes is taking a deep breath. So yeah, thanks for watching.